Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and man, appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to hang with me a little bit. I always appreciate that. Guys, today we're going to be talking about bass fishing tournaments again and how the payouts are in the toilet, worse than they've ever been, how bass fishing is becoming more of a money pit than it's ever been as far as tournaments, and it doesn't make any sense. Well, it does. I'm going to explain to you what's happening here, but one of the things I wanted to do in this video, a lot of guys can't look back as far as I do, but I want to take you guys back for a little history lesson on where the payouts used to be relative to like the entry fees, and where it's how we got to this point where it's basically a money pit now. And it sucks, man. It really does. I feel sorry for a lot of the people that are in tournament fishing now, because it is just it is like the worst business decision you can ever make to want to be a professional bass fisherman right now. And I'm going to explain that. And I've earned the right to say that, guys. I've been a professional fisherman, and I've made my living at pro fishing since 1985. So I can talk about this as somebody that's been there and done that. So I'm going to give you guys some of my opinions in today's video on that. And also, for get started, guys, quick invitation, man. I just like to invite everybody, if you like intuitive angling and you'd like to support the channel, just hitting that subscribe button goes a long way. If you want to go to the next level, guys, you can sign up to be a channel member. Just hit the join button on my YouTube homepage, or you can join our Patreon program. Great ways to support the channel. Really appreciate that. And also, guys, quick reminder that I did change the name of my Facebook page from Randy Blaukat Professional Angler to Intuitive Angling with Randy Blaukat, so there's no confusion there. So appreciate everybody that's been checking out all my Facebook posts. Thank you very much for that. Okay. One of the reasons I want to do this video is a lot of the tournament organizations are starting to release their payouts for 2026, and I've seen some of them, guys, and it just continues to go down. I mean, payouts across the board are going down relative to the entry fees going up, and relative to the expenses, what it costs to fish, and relative to sponsorships. It's a whole, there's a lot of variables that go into this when I say that tournament bass fishing is the worst money pit and the worst business decision anyone can make. Let me quantify that by, explaining the different reasons why that is. It's not just one reason. Okay, first of all, back when, I started, it's like professional fishing was really getting off the ground back in the mid 80s. And it peaked during the 90s and the very early part of the 2000s. That's when the payouts were the best. That's where sponsor opportunities were the best. And it was like standard, just the standard payout was over 100% payout, because they had sponsors contributing that, helped the payout. And at one point, there was a period during the 90s and early 2000s where we had like 120, 130% payout in the tournaments. Now, if you look across the board, the norm for a tournament payout is like 60 to 75% payout. They're not even paying out everybody's entry fee. They would be better off, guys. People would make more money if everybody just showed up down at the boat ramp on Friday morning and put their money in a big pot and had a jackpot tournament. At least you'd be fishing for all your money back. You'd be fishing for 100% payout, and it's not like that. Tournament organizations are sucking money off of their entry fees to subsidize their own businesses. That's just the way it is. That's the reality of the situation. When you have major tournament organizations that are like, all the ones out there, all the big ones, they're paying out 60, 70, 75% payback to the tournaments. Where's the other 25% going out? It's like, is it going into profits? Is it going into operating expenses? Whatever. But nevertheless, it's not a good look, because in my opinion, if you have to allow and rely on the tournament anglers to subsidize your organization, somebody's not doing their job. Somebody within the marketing and advertising departments of the tournament organizations suck at their job, because they are not supporting the organization. They're having to suck off the anglers to keep the organization afloat. Okay, now there's a lot of different reasons for this. Let me go back in time a little bit. First of all, tournament payouts have never been awesome, except for occasionally they'll have some big top heavy payouts on the top end. Now, I have fished 4 tournaments in my life, guys, that have paid $1 million for first. I fished a couple Forest Wood Cups, a couple Ranger M1 tournaments, $1 million for first. It used to be standard that the Forest Wood Cup and the Bassmaster Classic paid $500,000. It's not the way it is anymore. We don't have $1 million payouts anymore. You've got the marquee events like the Classic and the Red Crest are paying $300,000, which is the lowest it's been forever, for a payout, while all the other sports increase. You look at the payouts for professional bowling, professional golf, professional tennis, the payouts go up every year. Why is bass fishing going down in light of the fact that there's more people that fish and more money spent on fishing than any other sport? There are, I think there's like 55 million licensed anglers in the country, and the bass fishing, I don't know how many $1 billion the bass fishing industry in general, pulls down a year from product sales. And there's not another sport, professional golf or anything like that has that type of participant influx going into the tournament. So something does not add up. When you got a business like bass fishing that pulls down so much money that's not going back into the tournament world that generates a lot of that interest, something simply does not add up. Now, before, like I said, tournament payouts have never really been that great, except for during the late 90s and early 2000s when Walmart was involved with the FLW tournaments and they threw a lot of money into the payouts. There was the best time of year to be fishing. But nevertheless, tournament payouts have always been, people just keeping their head above water at the best. But the difference was back then is, number one, you had lower entry fees in relationship to the payout, and you had a lot more sponsor opportunities. Because let's go back to that period from about 1990 to about 2004. During that period there, the payouts per percentage-wise, as far as the relationship of the entry fee versus the payout, were a lot higher, number one, than they are right now. And number two, it was very common to get a sponsor back then that would pay your entry fees and a lot of your expenses. So therefore, a lot of pro anglers back during that time frame, they basically had a situation where they were, it didn't cost them anything to fish. So they could go to the tournaments, backed by their sponsorship money, and whatever they won at the tournaments was profit for them. So throughout the course of a season, even if you could make the money in 50% of the tournaments where they paid $10,000 or $15,000 to make a check, you could come out okay with that, especially if you had some other sponsors along with that. It's not like that anymore. Sponsorships like that don't exist because there's too many fishermen. There has been such a massive influx of tournament fishermen over the past 5 years that the money's simply not there. And that's why we get into this thing where I talk about tournament fishing is turning into an elitist sport, because it's weeding out all those people that are not financially independent that can keep forking out those $5,000 entry fees. So what is it exactly, the problem here? Why are the payouts going down, and what's the issue with that? Okay, a couple different reasons with that. First of all, tournament organizations don't need much of an excuse to jack around with payouts. And I haven't seen their books, so I don't understand what the deal is with it. Somebody's making some money. These tournament organizations would not continue to go on year after year after year if they weren't making some money. But the problem you have, because I have been privy, guys, to be in some sponsorship meetings with these tournament organizations, with both Bassmaster and the former FLW. I've been in these negotiations with sponsorships through various people I've been working with. And I can tell you something right now, in working on both sides of the aisle with that, is that the tournament organizations blow a lot of smoke to the sponsors. They offer them things that they offer them things that sound really good on paper, but they do not provide a return on the investment for the advertiser. It's like they're exaggerating the impact and the impressions that they can generate. There's like a lot of fuzzy math going on there. And this may work to secure a sponsorship, but the bottom line is, if you're not getting a return on your investment as an advertiser, that sponsorship's not going to last very long. And that's what we've seen. We've seen this happen over and over again, where an organization will land a sponsor, The sponsor is not happy. They're not getting a return on their investment from what they were promised. And then it drops by the wayside, and then the reputation gets out there, and it becomes more and more difficult to attain quality sponsorships, not only, for the business of the tournament organizations, but for the payouts as well. And that's one of the things I've never understood. A lot of times when the tournament organizations in the past would get a new sponsor, they would seem all excited about it. The tournament anglers could care less, because if it didn't reflect in the payout, what do they care if they landed a new sponsor? And most of the time when they landed these new sponsors, it did not reflect in the payout. So that's one thing about it. But here's the fundamental flaw with tournament fishing, and the reason why the model is broken completely is tournament organizations like Bassmaster and MLF, they should be nonprofit organizations that are owned by and run by the tournament anglers. When you have a business like tournament organizations that are run as a business where they're in it to make profit, the tournament anglers are always just going to get the crumbs. They're never going to get a big piece of the pie. They're going to be fighting for crumbs all the time. And it's been my experience that the tournament organizations, they are very aware of the fact that the anglers are disgruntled with the payout, and they give them just enough. They throw them just enough of a payout structure to keep the anglers from revolting, but they're still disgruntled about it. It's been like that for a while, where people are talking about it. They're not happy with it, but it's not to the extent where they're going to do anything with it. We have a broken model with that right now. And like I said, the fundamental thing is and here again, I'm not privy to the books of these organizations, so I don't understand as far as the details, but it's my opinion and my speculation that not only that you've got this overhead to take care of, but people are wanting to make money. The tournament organizations are wanting to make as much money as they can, because they are a business, and the tournament anglers are basically just customers. If you think about it, the professional bass fishermen are nothing more than customers to the tournament organizations. And that's why, it just continues to go downhill. It's a combination. There's too many tournaments. There's too many tournament anglers. The shift from tournament angling to more of a social media influencer arena has undermined the value of tournaments to sponsorships, to gain sponsorships. You got the whole thing about being a business. You got some greed involved with that. You got the fact, more than anything else, that tournaments can simply not deliver to an advertiser the value that social media can now. Social media influencers, I don't care if it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, are simply more valuable than tournament organizations. Now, tournament organizations, they influence a lot of the industry trends, but it just doesn't equate into money for the tournament anglers. So, like I said, it's a system that has a lot of problems that are up against it right now, but it's never going to change as long as guys are willing to throw down $5,500 entry fees for every tournament. As long as they can keep getting those guys sucked into it, they're not going to change it. Why would they? I mean, if a tournament organization can operate under the premise where they can have a full field of guys that spend $5,000 per tournament to fish, even if they're only paying them out 60 or 70%, why do they want? What motivation do they have to change? They don't. I mean, if they're a business. So it's messed up all the way around, guys. And ultimately, it's just like I said, the only way that we're going to transcend this is if tournament bass fishing organizations are nonprofit, owned by the anglers. Then you would see some really massive change at that point, and you see a betterment for the anglers themselves. But right now, guys, the anglers are nothing but, they're stuck in the middle of a money pit. They're all they are is customers to the tournament organizations. We're not in a good place right now, and this is something that has happened incrementally over the years. And I just wish that we would get back to the 1998 to 2004 era in bass fishing, because if you were there like I was, you know what I'm talking about. It was the best time to be a pro angler, and there's no reason they can't have it again. But you're not going to have it if you have people in positions of power that run these tournament organizations that don't have any motivation to get it back to that point. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. We'll talk later.